You have an idea. You want to tell it to the world, but you don't know where to start. That's where Anchor comes in. They have the tools for you to edit, produce, and record your idea right from your phone or computer. It's the easiest way to reach and grow your audience. They publish for you to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all major platforms. And to top it all off, they match you with advertisers so you can earn from your passion and your wonderful idea. So tell me, what are you waiting for? Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started and follow your dream. Welcome to Disruptive Adventism. My name is Jose Briones, and I'll be your host for this podcast. This podcast is about discussing the polemical statements and practices that are part of the Adventist fabric, which in turn shape this belief system to be unique and relevant for today's society. During today's installment, we have a conversation about tabletop gaming and culture with Katelyn Campbell. Katelyn is the co-founder of Campbell Consultants, a Christian board game and consultant organization seeking to connect games and the gospel. Without nothing else to say, let us begin.
Thanks everyone for tuning in again on Disruptive Adventism. Today's topic is on gaming, and we have Katelyn from Campbell Consultants with us. Katelyn, welcome to the show. Welcome to Disruptive Adventism. How you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me, Jose.
Yeah, well, tell me a little bit more about Campbell Consultants. What is it? How did it start? And also give us a little bit about yourself. What are you doing? What's the future looking like? And what are the exciting projects that are in your life? Go ahead.
Yeah, sure thing. So Campbell Consultants kind of grew out of just a natural excitement that I and my family and friends have for board games. It was about this time last year, a group of us had just come from a game convention, and we were thinking, man, this is so much fun. We got to connect so much with each other. We're getting to experience so many awesome things. Wouldn't it be neat to experience that here in our local community? And wouldn't it be neat to experience that here in our church? And so we began to ponder what that would look like. And at first it was kind of like this random idea that we had that was floating around, like, wouldn't it be neat? Oh, but we would never do that. But then we started thinking, no, for serious, like, what would that actually look like? And as a result, we asked around, started talking with people, and we got a lot of interest in this concept of having a gaming convention. And when I say gaming convention, I'm talking about tabletop board games. Okay. Yeah.
I was going to ask you that. What kind of gaming? There's different scenarios or different areas that one can be involved in.
Exactly.
So you guys are focused on board games.
Yeah, well, we'll say tabletop gaming because that can include board games, that can include card games.
Oh, okay, got it.
That can include role-playing or narrative-building games. I know that can be kind of a taboo word to say.
Right. Is that like Dungeons and Dragons, that kind of idea? Or am I following the right tracks? Or
the concept, we'll stay clear of Dungeons and Dragons because that kind of gets people down the wrong road. But the idea of narrative building, of placing yourself in the perspective of a character and experiencing things from their point of view.
Got it.
And we do that with like improv games. We do that. As kids in our imagination, we're running around, we're seeing things from a new perspective, and we can actually use that type of game in an amazing way to really experience even the Bible in a deeper point of view. Like we run through skits of what it was like to be King David or what it was like to be Joseph or his brothers.
And interact in a gaming format to do that. Okay.
Exactly.
Now, run with me through a couple of the games that you guys have developed. Maybe like explain what's the difference between, you said tabletop. So it's like, what's the difference between a narrative-based game with a card game with a board game? What are some of the basic definitions?
Yeah, exactly. So when you think of card game, you think like the traditional, you got a handful of cards. In Adventism, we like to call back to Rook. That is a common one we call to. And so it might be, everyone's playing cards, taking turns, trying to win points. That's typically what you get for a card game. Board game are classic stereotype for a board game. We think of Monopoly. Right. Yeah, we think of Scrabble, Life. And the crazy thing is, in the last 10 years or so, there's really been this explosion of board games So now people would say, the new Monopoly is Settlers of Catan. Like,
right.
That is huge. But there's more than that. Plenty of games that have cropped up as a result. And as far as board games, that's where card games, you have cards. Board games, pretty self-explanatory. You have a board. You have something that's going on forever. You're moving pieces. You're making decisions. For role-playing games, this is, like I said, you're placing yourself in a narrative. And our company at Campbell Consultants has spent some time developing 2 games, actually, that fit under the role-playing genre. And so we played both of them for our game convention last year, a CampbellCon. The first one is called One Less at the Table. Mm-hmm. And in it, everyone is given a role of one of Joseph's brothers. Mm. And you play through 3 acts of when Joseph has been away, he's been out in captivity, he's gone, and what the family dynamic is like at the dinner table and how they have been affected by this. There's a flashback. We go to another scene where it's just after his brothers have sold Joseph and how they're interacting with their parents and the tension that's rising there as they're trying to hold this lie. And then the final scene is after reconvening with Joseph, seeing he's alive, and the joy that results then. And we set up this system. It's very loose. Everyone is given a character and basic motivation for each scene, and they're just encouraged to play it out. And in our debrief afterwards, as we were talking with the people who played in this narrative game, many of them said, this allows me to see the Bible story from a new perspective. Like, I grew up in the Adventist church. I've heard the story backwards and forwards, but when I actually stepped into the role of Judah and I saw what his perspective, what his life would look like throughout this timeline, it opens things up in a new way, and it allows me to connect with the characters in a way that I hadn't before. So that was one game we've developed. We've also developed a game called Fate Last Days, which is another role-playing game where you play characters in the end of times. Oh. And so I've run this game a couple times, and I love the characters that the players have developed. We've had people play characters from 93-year-old Adventist conservative women who knit sweaters and want to evangelize through her sweater knitting ministry, to homeless guys who have just heard the word of God and are so excited, and placing these characters in situations where you yourself as a player would wonder, what would I do in this context? Or what can I learn through looking through the eyes of this character as I'm engaging in these situations?
So what I hear is that this games that you guys have developed kind of helped me to, empathize with other people. Yeah. And maybe even try to search them out, or how do the interactions happen? Because there's gaming culture, right? Mm-hmm. I understand that. So far, there's a gaming culture, there's conventions, there are things. How do you guys, involve the players or the people that come into that culture? How you have built that culture? Is it different than just going out and play games every so often? Is there a component? I mean, there's a social component. Mm-hmm. Explain a little bit more. How have you guys seen this in your life or in the lives of your family and friends?
Yeah, sure thing. So we clarified at the beginning, we're talking about tabletop gaming, because we also have virtual gaming. That is, that's huge. Computer games, apps on your phone. And those are opportunities where you're socializing, but virtually, right? You're connecting with people, and most of the time.
It's more chat-based.
Exactly, yeah. What I love about tabletop gaming is it's people gathering around a table. It's people actually with each other. You can read each other's body language. You can laugh with each other. You can, pass the Doritos. You've got this intimacy. As far as developing it, when we started day one of our convention at CampbellCon, we had a group of about 20, 25 or so people there at the very start. And very few of the people present actually knew each other, and it was very awkward. Right. It was very quiet. We had some opening ceremonies, and we were all excited as the founders, but it was kind of this this is kind of awkward. Throughout the time, it took just the first couple games of people sitting down with strangers, getting involved in the same participatory activity. You start to see barriers break down. You enter as strangers, but you walk away having made memories, having had inside jokes, right. Having started to establish relationships.
I want that game.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was a neat thing, going from like the very beginning of our convention where everyone was, not really sure about each other, to the end when we had our closing ceremonies and we were giving out prizes for various games that people won, and everyone was just cheering and excited and encouraging one another that they had literally just met a day or two before. And I think that's what is really neat about gaming culture, is that you can sit down at a table, and since everyone is given the same focus, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone is, whether it's a competitive game and you're, challenging each other, trying to work towards the same goal but beating each other out, or if it's a cooperative game where you're all working together to try to defeat the game. That's another popular style nowadays. Okay. Whatever the focus is, you're all focusing on it together. And there's this camaraderie that really gets developed. There's this team mentality that gets developed when you sit down together and are all focused on this one thing. And so I think out of that, you can sit down and play 1 hour and walk away being a whole lot closer than you were before you sat down.
Okay, so now let's go into maybe a different area from this gaming perspective.
Yeah.
How has gaming impacted your spiritual life, mm-hmm. or the life of those that came to a Campbell Con, or those that are continuing to, interact with you? How has it been positive? Has it been negative? Has it taken away time from you? I don't know, go ahead, explain to me, how is gaming related to Adventism? Mm-hmm. In this sense, is it important? Should we do it more often? Sorry for all the questions, but go ahead, share with me.
No worries. I like to say that the power of a game is in the debrief. Mm. And
nice quote, one-liner.
Yeah, that's right. Write that one down. But the power of the game is in the debrief, which means we can sit down and we can be engaged in this activity. We can accomplish these goals. We can lose at these goals. And we can finish the game and say, so what? So what did I learn from this? What did I need to succeed in this? What made this aspect more difficult for me? And how does this relate to life? There's a great board game called Codenames, which is a team-based game where you have one person who's trying to get other people to guess certain clues, but they're limited in how they can get their team to guess. They can only give one word to try to get them to guess the right things. And what I love about that game is it really emphasizes the importance of knowing the person who's communicating with you. Mm. And so when we finish Codenames, we can say, what made it easy for you to guess the clues? And most of the time it's, I was thinking similarly with the person who is giving the clues, right? Or I've spent time with this person, so I know that when they say this, what they're really inferring is that. And of course, that in itself has fantastic spiritual takeaway of how much time am I spending with God? How much time am I spending in His Word to know that when He is communicating this, He means that. Or when He is saying this, I can actually be tuned in to hear what He's saying. So there's plenty of applications like that where if you're looking at an activity through the eyes of God and say, what can I learn here? What's the takeaway? There's so many applications that you can come up with.
So it seems that when you run or when you're thinking about maybe inviting people to game with you, mm-hmm. it's not just I want to have a good time. Mm-hmm. As you said, the power of a game or the lesson of the game is in the debrief, right? Mm-hmm. Can you run by the quote again for me?
Yeah. The power of a game is in the debrief.
The power of a game is in the debrief. I just wanted to get it right.
Yeah.
So you also, it's not just hey, let's come play Uno or Monopoly and just have fun and see who wins. Mm-hmm. It's more of let's talk about it. Let's talk about what happened afterwards. So there's a sense of community building.
Yeah.
In this, it's not just let's see who can get the most points. It's let's see who can get the most points, but let's talk about it. Why did that person get the most points? That's maybe what you're trying to do.
Exactly. And of course there's space for just the simplicity of sitting down and spending time together, building relationship. That completely has a place. But you ratchet up things to the next level and can really start getting to the heart of issues and getting to know one another and talking about deep things when you start looking for that application.
As a gamer, right? Mm-hmm. Or at least in the times that I have played different games, I get really intense. I'm one of those players that I do not like to lose. Mm-hmm. how do you guys manage that? Or is there a negative aspect about gaming? Because, for example, like I have a very strong personality. Mm-hmm. And when I'm playing Uno, I actually, before playing, I always say like, all right, guys, I'm going to win in X amount of turns. You know, and it sounds very like arrogant, and like a lot of people always like, I'm just intense. I just like to joke about it, you know, and sometimes I win in that amount of turn or before, you know, it's kind of funny or whatever. But when I play, like, I get really intense. And how do you manage that? Or are the games that you guys are developing focusing less on the competitive side of gaming and more on the team building side of gaming? How do you balance the whole be competitive, but also be community based? Mm-hmm. How do you form that? What is the philosophy behind a Campbell Con?
Yeah. I will say our founding members of a Campbell Consultants, for the most part, we're all pretty cooperative based. And by that I mean, like, we love cooperative games. We like working together to beat games. And so I think because of our natural appreciation, our natural tendency, we're tending towards developing games that are less competitive and more team-based. Or the emphasis is more on what can I learn, what can I take away, rather than how can I beat everyone else.
Right.
But there is some fantastic things to explore with the idea of, I like to call it like the rage quit, right?
Yes, I've experienced that.
Yeah,
for sure.
I went to a seminar a few months ago, actually, it was called The Psychology of the Rage Quit, where it looks at like what are the lead up factors that cause us to experience what we're feeling when we approach a game. And one thing the presenter mentioned was we get frustrated when our goals are inhibited. And so times when you're getting frustrated in a game, when you're getting upset, when you're ready to rage quit, your goals are most likely getting inhibited. Someone else took the thing that you wanted, or you thought you had the perfect play and then someone else countered it. And that in itself can lend to a lot of like self-reflection. That can lend to a lot of, thinking about, how am I approaching life? How I'm in this simulation, I'm in this game, but how do I show up in life that's similar to what I see here? And so, as you can tell, like, I'm all about the self-reflection.
That's awesome. I mean, it's something that is not seen in the gaming community, at least from the times that I have experienced. You know, sometimes it's just like, hey, we're gonna have a game night, and it's just like, let's go have fun, and then everybody goes home. But I see that you guys are looking to use gaming as a tool to connect with people and to reflect with them as well. So, I mean, to me, that's amazing because it opens a lot of possibilities.
Yeah.
That now, how is this unique? There's plenty of games out there, right? Millions of Kickstarters and a lot of new ideas coming out. Why is a Campbell Consultant games? Why are your guys' games different? Because you guys are Adventists. Is that a different way of approaching it? What is different about it?
Yeah. So there, like I said, in the last 10, 15 years, there's been an explosion of games. Like you said, Kickstarter is absolutely full with new game opportunities. Every day there's something new that's added. But as a Christian gamer, as an Adventist gamer, there's not a lot of content that is high quality, that is also of a Christian theme.
Right. You have mainly, quote unquote, rip-offs. Like, you have Bibleopoly,
which, if I remember correctly, when you go to jail, it means like you have to pray more. And so, what messages are we sending?
Correct. Yeah. There's Bibleopoly, or there are other kind of copycats. The very popular game. Let's just make it Bible-based. So it doesn't have like a foundation from a Christian worldview. It's just like, let's copy something that's out there and make it Christianized,
Exactly.
So you guys are starting from a different place.
Right, yeah. And so there are a few games that we run across that we're super excited about, and I'll share this with you. Commissioned by Chara Games, fantastic game, and it's all about first century Christians spreading the gospel. It's a cooperative game. You're expanding across the known world, planting churches and facing adversity, and it's really neat. Another one is Kingdom of Solomon by Minion Games. that's competitive and
my kind of game.
Your kind of game. And
so that means that I get to be the richest man on earth, like Solomon, or how does it work? Explain to me.
Yeah, so you're looking at the time of Solomon and his expansion throughout the kingdom, and as he's collecting resources and building the temple, building outposts, and raising up this kingdom, and so you can be a part. And what I really like about this game is that you'll have cards that come up that will say various events that happen, and they're biblical events. They're things like you can look up in scripture and say, oh yeah, that happened. Solomon marries another wife. We have that takes place.
But very real things that happen. Okay,
exactly. So those are two games that we at Campbell Consultants have run across that are biblically based, that we feel are actually quality games. But there's not a whole lot else. and not to say, like I said before, you can take any game, or I should say you can take most games, and you can find positive spiritual application
You
from
can
it.
Still have that debrief, that powerful debrief at the end.
Exactly.
But it doesn't mean that the experience is going to be enjoyable all the way. Maybe like if it's a high quality game, I'm going to enjoy it all the way through, and the debrief is going to be more powerful instead of trying to reach for the debrief or reaching for the explanation.
Exactly. And so that's where we came along and we're thinking, we need more content. We need more things that can play with a youth group on a Sabbath afternoon, or that you can use in a group to get to some deeper spiritual applications. And so that's kind of why we've swayed in the direction with our game development of looking into games, creating games that can really enhance our spirituality and also be fun and quality games, not just a knockoff of something else.
Right. Wow, that's great. Now, as you are mentioning, these games that you guys are developing, they can be used in multiple ways, not only to have fun. I heard a hint right there of maybe what we call evangelism, like, teaching, or maybe having purpose of debriefing and increasing spirituality among youth groups. Is that a focus of yours in the developing stages? Are you guys looking to that? Is gaming and evangelism compatible?
Oh yeah, completely. I like this concept of Christianity not being compartmentalized.
Okay.
And we're taking an area that we are really excited about, something that we really enjoy, something that is a worldwide growing phenomenon. And we're saying, this doesn't have to be separate from Christianity. This doesn't have to be separate from spirituality. How can we use this for the glory of God? And in the process of developing community, we can also, in the power of the debrief, we can touch on issues that people might be more receptive to in the context of a game. For example, I've known multiple cases of people who will only come to a church. Either they were previously Adventists and are not anymore, or they're community members, but they will only come to church when it's a game night, when it's the monthly game night, and they'll show up, and that's using a tool for God's glory. That's using this opportunity to build relationship, to touch on these deeper spiritual issues in a fun and safe environment. I don't know if that answered your question.
No, yeah, definitely answered my question. I think that what you're saying is true. I mean, it allows you to maybe expand from a traditional way of doing and reaching people in the community to a more like, hey, let's just sit down, have fun, build community, and just keep coming back through that door. I see. Then there is a difference. I mean, like in the beginning, we kind of mentioned like the popular game Dungeons and Dragons, right? So there is a difference when you're creating a new space, Christian games that can help everybody to kind of go deeper into their spirituality and just build that community that's lacking in many people's lives.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, yeah, that's awesome. As we start closing the podcast, tell me more about a CampbellCon. Like, let's say I want to find out, I want to get resources. What are you guys doing for that? Where do I find you? How do I start my own gaming ministry?
Yeah, find us. So again, our company is called Campbell Consultants, and we've talked a lot about game development, and that is one branch of what we do. But another branch we're also super excited about is helping you and your church, your organization, have similar experiences, have a weekend of gaming for your community, and guiding you in the process from limited amount of consulting if you only want some basic ideas to, hey, we'll come in and we'll put this on for you. We'll cover everything. We'll, give you ideas for games, give you ideas for how to set up your weekend, give you some game content, talk you through like our philosophy of gaming. So if you're interested in doing anything like that, you can find us we're on Twitter at A Campbell Consultants. We have our website at acampbellconsultants.com.
Mm-hmm.
And on Facebook, if you look up A Campbell Con, and that's one last thing that we as a Campbell Consultants company is in charge of, is putting on A Campbell Con, which is the convention we started last year. And we have one coming up. Our second annual A Campbell Con is happening January 4 through 6 here at Andrews University. And so if you are interested in coming and attending, being part of this community, being part of this phenomenon, maybe picking up tools that you yourself want to use in your communities, send us a Facebook message, hit us up on our website. We'd be happy to dialogue with you. We'd be happy to have you come and be a part of our community.
Before I forget, I also want to touch on a kind of important topic. Yeah. You guys were at Gen Con, right? That's like a convention for gamers, correct?
Yes.
And how is this gaming ministry or gaming consulting idea helping you guys build bridges with other gamers that may not know anything about Christianity?
Yeah, that's great. So yes, Gen Con is like the biggest tabletop gaming convention in the world, basically.
Wow.
It's huge. And this last summer we went as panelists.
Okay.
My friend Abigail and I were both representing A Campbell Consultants and went to talk about Christianity and gaming. Mm-hmm. And there we met, it was phenomenal. We met so many people who are doing just what we've been talking about, who are using gaming as a tool for ministry. And we dialogued and discussed, like, how can we make this a bigger and more exciting phenomenon? And it was incredibly encouraging to hear the other bridges that are being built. Sometimes it can feel a little isolated. We're in our community. Are other people doing the same thing? But you can see that this is something that's happening, all across the United States, all across the world. And being a presence there at Gen Con is in itself a pretty phenomenal thing to say. We as Christians do not shun you for your activities. We're not going to say you're involved in these terrible things. You're, the power introverts who are never getting out and doing anything exciting with your lives. No, we're saying that we too, we want to come beside you. We care about you. We are excited about this thing too. Christianity is not compartmentalized. We want to join with you. We want to build bridges with you. And that's kind of a really neat thing that we were allowed to do at Gen Con, to be this representation saying, hey, I'm a Christian and I'm a gamer, and in the same way that I believe God loves me and all of my mess and whatever I'm doing, God loves you. And if you want to talk about it, you know where to find me.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for sharing. Thanks for your time today.
Yeah.
Before we go, as always, we give our guests one last time, one final word. So if you want to give us your last thoughts on gaming and Adventism, what is it? Go ahead.
Ooh. Last thoughts on gaming and Adventism. Again, I mentioned the concept of Christianity not being compartmentalized. Paul writes in 1 Corinthians, whatever you do, do it for the glory of God. This is a widely popular activity that, unfortunately, I think a lot of the time our church is kind of turning a blind eye to. We're not aware of it. But it is a ripe area for evangelism, a ripe area for connection. And so I would encourage you, if we've got any tabletop gamers out there who have just, you and one or two friends that get together, let's connect. Let's make this a phenomenon for God. Let's make this a part of our ministry, all for the kingdom of God, and be a part of something that's bigger than just what is in front of our table. We can approach the table, we come together as friends, but this is something that's bigger than what we have at the table, and that's a pretty cool thing.
That was our time with Katelyn Campbell, co-founder of Campbell Consultants. For those of you interested in getting a consultation or board game related material, please visit campbellconsultants.com. If you want to book a consultation, Campbell Consultants is running a promotion of $50 off for the next 5 people who purchase a consultation package. Thank you for listening today. If you're enjoying the podcast or other content that we're producing here at Disruptive Adventism, we want to invite you to consider contributing through our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/Disruptive Adventism. Your contribution helps us continue to create a space where Adventism expands its relevance in today's society. I also hope that our content has intrigued you a little bit and that you decide to stay around for future podcasts. If you have any comments, feedback, or a topic you would like us to discuss, please go to our website at www.disruptiveadventism.org or shoot us an email to disruptiveadventism@gmail.com. We're eager to engage in discussions about any matter, so don't hesitate to contact us. This has been it for today. We hope you join us next time, and as always, we invite you to be disruptive.